Jeffrey Epstein, the Bitcoin founder. The Epstein Files show Jeffrey Epstein had financial and social proximity to parts of Bitcoin's early institutional ecosystem, MIT Media Lab, Blockstream, investor circles during a fragile period for Bitcoin's funding and governance. Emails show Epstein was copied on discussions critical of Ripple, XRP, and Stellar XLM during early competitive tensions in crypto, reflecting awareness of investor and ideological conflicts, not orchestration. The revelations underscore long-standing issues in crypto: funding concentration during crises, governance, legitimacy, regulatory uncertainty, and reputational risk. When millions of pages of newly released records began circulating under what have become known as the Epstein Files, one pattern quietly stood out: Jeffrey Epstein's repeated presence around early cryptocurrency institutions. As a donor, investor, correspondent, and private interlocutor, appearing at moments when Bitcoin's future governance, funding, and legitimacy were unusually fragile. This has led some online commentators to pose an extreme question: was Jeffrey Epstein connected to Bitcoin's creators, or even Satoshi Nakamoto himself? Epstein moved inside the same funding channels, academic labs, and elite networks that helped stabilize Bitcoin at a pivotal moment, while also expressing strong views about rival cryptocurrencies and future digital money systems. Jeffrey Epstein was a financier who cultivated access to academics, technologists, and policymakers. The Epstein Files refer to a huge collection of documents, emails, photos, videos, court records, and other materials gathered by U.S. law enforcement related to the case of Jeffrey Epstein, an American financier who was convicted of sex offenses and later faced federal sex trafficking charges, before dying in jail in 2019. These files were mostly sealed during the years of investigations and legal cases, but in late 2025 and early 2026, the U.S. government began releasing them under a new law called the Epstein Files Transparency Act. This effort has made millions of pages of documents and thousands of media files available publicly in redacted form, meaning sensitive personal info and some content has been blacked out or removed to protect victims and other legal concerns. Epstein's sustained interest in digital currency. Correspondence with Rafat Abdullah, Saad al-Sabah. In October 2016, Epstein wrote an email that would later draw attention for an unexpected reason. Corresponding with Rafat Abdullah, Saad al-Sabah, an advisor connected to the Saudi royal court, Epstein floated what he described as two radical ideas for new currencies. Epstein suggested creating a regional Middle Eastern currency and a Sharia-compliant digital currency. Modeled on Bitcoin, the Middle East could have its own Sharia for internal use amongst Muslims, he wrote, adding that a digital currency like Bitcoin could be adapted to comply with Islamic finance principles. I have spoken to some of the founders of Bitcoin who are very excited. The email establishes several facts beyond dispute. Epstein understood Bitcoin's architecture well enough to discuss religious compliance. He believed Bitcoin's design could be adapted for alternative monetary systems. He claimed personal access to early Bitcoin figures. To understand why Epstein's crypto involvement matters, it's necessary to rewind to 2014-2015, a period often overlooked in Bitcoin's origin story. At that time, the Bitcoin Foundation, which funded core infrastructure, collapsed. Developers lacked stable salaries. Governance disputes over block size threatened to fracture the network. Bitcoin's credibility as a global system was uncertain. This vacuum created a problem: who would pay the people maintaining Bitcoin's core code? The Media Lab launched the Digital Currency Initiative (DCI), positioning itself as a neutral academic home for Bitcoin research and development. The DCI began paying several key Bitcoin core developers, a move widely viewed as stabilizing. What was not publicly known at the time, but is now confirmed by the Epstein Files, is that Jeffrey Epstein was a donor to the MIT Media Lab during this period. Between 2013 and 2017, Epstein donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to the lab. Senior MIT officials approved the relationship quietly. His name was reportedly hidden internally due to reputational concerns. Epstein visited MIT multiple times and held private meetings with staff. Emails show Media Lab leadership explaining to Epstein that Bitcoin's core development effectively rested with 5 key developers. 3 of them had been recruited to MIT. One message explicitly notes that gift funds were used to move quickly and secure these developers. Epstein replied approvingly, referring to one by name. This means that at a critical juncture, an academic institution partially funded by Epstein became the primary paymaster for Bitcoin's most influential developers. That fact alone is historically significant. Epstein also appeared in early investment rounds for Blockstream, a company closely tied to Bitcoin's infrastructure and development ecosystem. In a 2014 email, Blockstream co-founder Austin Hill informed Epstein that his allocation in a seed round was being increased tenfold, from $50,000 to $500,000. Epstein also appeared in early investment rounds for Blockstream. Credit: U.S. Department of Justice. Blockstream later played a central role in Bitcoin's scaling debates and technical roadmap. Epstein's participation again shows financial proximity, not operational authority, but repeated proximity nonetheless. The Epstein Files contain correspondence in which Epstein is asked directly about Adam Back. The Blockstream connection brings another important name into focus: Adam Back. In a November 2014 email exchange, Epstein was queried by a contact about Back, noting that Epstein and MIT Media Lab director Joy Ito had invested in his company. Epstein's reply was brief, but unambiguous: "I like him." The message is short, but its implications are notable. Epstein knew Adam Back personally. This further reinforces the documented pattern. Epstein had direct access to individuals who played foundational roles in Bitcoin's technical and institutional evolution. There is no evidence that Adam Back acted improperly, or that Epstein influenced Bitcoin's code. The record simply shows proximity, familiarity, and investment. One of the most widely circulated documents from the Epstein Files is a July 31, 2014 email titled, "Stellar Isn't So Stellar," sent by Austin Hill, a co-founder of Blockstream. The message was addressed to a small group of recipients, including Jeffrey Epstein, MIT Media Lab director Joy Ito, and LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman. One of the most widely circulated documents from the Epstein Files is a July 31, 2014 email titled, "Stellar Isn't So Stellar." Credit: U.S. Department of Justice. In the email, Hill raised concerns about investor overlap between Bitcoin-aligned ventures and two competing projects, Ripple and Stellar. At the time, Ripple was already established as a digital payments network, while Stellar had just been launched by Jed McCaleb, a Ripple co-founder, who had departed the company and reused portions of its codebase to create a new network focused on cross-border payments. Hill wrote that backing both Ripple and Stellar posed a problem for what he described as the ecosystem we are building, arguing that it created reputational and strategic conflicts. He suggested that investors supporting multiple projects in the same space were effectively backing two horses in the same race, and warned that such overlap could damage confidence among Bitcoin-focused stakeholders. The language of the email reflects the competitive environment of the period. In mid-2014, the cryptocurrency sector was still small, funding was limited, and technical legitimacy was closely tied to investor signaling. Disputes over ideology, scalability, and governance frequently overlapped with business rivalries, particularly as Bitcoin-aligned developers and companies sought to distinguish themselves from alternative digital ledger systems. Jeffrey Epstein's inclusion on the email chain indicates that he was copied on discussions about these competitive dynamics. Please subscribe to the channel and like the video.